Hello there! This is just going to be a video where I analyze the current world record in Wii Sports Golf 9 holes. Not the score world record. The current speedrun world record is a 3 minutes 58 second time held by the Canadian runner EmoadNomad's. It is, well, one of the most dominant world records across the entirety of Wii Sports and has stood for generally over 2 years. So, it's a pretty good run. It's almost perfect. So what makes this run almost perfect? Let's analyze that, as well as the strategies that Emoad employs throughout the entire run to get such an obscenely low time.
Bro, don't call me Shirley.
That's so funny.
Good morning, Tyler.
Yeah, the general antics of Emoad's VC is going to be a reoccurring theme throughout the entire run. I'm not doing anything about it. You're gonna have to suck it up.
Good morning.
So, you might already get the general gist of Wii Sports Golf, so I'm not going to explain much. You have wind that will move your ball in that direction, you have your yardage, you have the general overlook of the hole, and the club you're using. Driver, iron, wedge, or putter. You will mostly see the driver being used throughout the run for what should hopefully be obvious reasons. So let's get the run going.
My name, Shirley Cat.
You might notice that Emoad immediately hits his first shot on hole 1 into the bunker. This might seem bad. However, you can actually use the bunker in various ways throughout a run to your advantage, as there are setups that allow you to hit certain shots from the bunker on holes 2, 3, 4, 7, and various others, I guess. Or, in Emoad's case, do something entirely different.
So you weren't actually asleep, right?
Bro, I was okay.
One thing you might know from being in the bunker is that your shot's power is handicapped depending on what club you're using. Wedges and irons get their shots handicapped to 1 bar of power or risk red barring in either direction, while putters and drivers just don't get any of that. However, there is a trick that you can do with the driver that allows you to get just slightly over 1 bar of power, known as 1.5 driver.
Bro.
I think the name explains it for itself. It's a 1.5 driver shot. This kind of shot can be done by doing a counterclockwise hook motion from left to right. I just hit my fucking earbuds. By doing a left to right motion, or right to left, depending on what hand you're using to hold your Wii remote, you can occasionally get the game to think you're doing a 1.5 shot with your driver, which allows your shot to go farther than typical with a driver.
Oh my god, we are terrible.
Bro, I was out cold, bro.
Wake up time.
From this kind of spot, a casual might say either A, pull out your putter and slam it, hoping it goes into the hole, adjusting for the slope on the ground and etc., or hit a wedge shot and hope it chips in for a birdie. However, let's cut both of those options out because we're not using wedges and we're not using putters.
Wake up.
That was a bop, bro. Damn.
Dude, I was set that to my...
This sort of shot is known as a driver chip, and it will become reoccurring as you watch other runs of 9 holes. By pulling out your driver and aiming at the flag, adjusting for certain circumstances such as, well, wind, where the flag is located, and general other stuff, you can hit the ball into the flag and typically have it fall straight into the hole. In fringe cases, however, the ball can fall into the hole and bounce out or onto the green. And, well, I don't have to elaborate for any of those. That loses time because you're wasting strokes. But thankfully, in Emoad's case, he is able to hit the ball into the flag and have it go in for a very quick birdie. Now, this can be done faster, obviously. If you get an eagle on this hole, you can save around 3 seconds if you just do it with a driver and iron for your first and second shots, respectively. However, after 36,000 attempts, I'm not sure why you would want to go for that and instead not just go for, well, standardized strategies like 1.5 driver.
That was a gem.
What do you mean weird terrible? That was entirely my idea.
Now, on this hole, there is one glitch that will be featured that will massively alter the course of the run. You might notice that on this leaderboard, there's a variable known as disconnect, and a majority of runs here are DS, while some are NDS. As you scroll down the leaderboard, you might notice there is a greater abundance of NDS runs as compared to top level, where DS starts to become the norm. There's a reason for this. We'll see it on this hole. And on the later holes.
Don't try to pin.
What you will see here is a disconnect shot. By taking out the batteries of your Wii Remote, or simply disconnecting your Wii Remote, and immediately reconnecting them as the ball enters into the water, you can perform a shot that looks like this. Now, there are a lot of factors to be considered with disconnect. A, how hard did you initially hit the shot when you hit the shot for the disconnect? Depending on what power you hit your shot at, disconnect can wildly vary and can sometimes cause your shot to soar insanely far. Secondly, did you hit any terrain during your disconnect shot? Because if so, then your shot tends to go a little bit farther than normal, or in some cases just 40 yards from the hole, and can result in time loss, forcing you to either hit your shot much weaker or just other stuff. Thankfully, in EmoadNomad's case, it works out well for him, and he is able to just get 1 yard from the hole just like that. Wind also plays a very important factor in disconnect shots, so be wary of that throughout the run.
Let's see if there's one.
Good night time.
Hole 3 is a very pure hole, and there's not much to call home about it in terms of tricks. You have a dogbone layout style hole with a stray island off in the middle of the out of bounds that going to it can save you a few seconds for. Not a few seconds, just a little bit of time. Emoad does go for it because 10 south is not good for this strat. And, well, this is very good win for island strat anyway. If it were 30, reset the run, but since it's 10, it's pretty good.
Production trailer. Good Night, Tyler is a contemporary and unexpectedly humorous drama.
Similarly to being in the bunker, being in the rough handicaps your shot's power. For wedge, you get 3 bars of power flat, and if you go over, red line. For iron and driver, that grace with the wedge is limited down to 2. But it is possible to manipulate your red line by swinging your rough shot as hard as you can in a certain manner. Typically by doing full backswing and then swinging about as hard as you can. Or in EmoadNomad's case, just doing this. Doing so will allow you to do this.
What?
Red line might look like RNG, but in this case you can manipulate it to always go right, which is what Emoad does in this situation in order to get his shot to go rightward. This is why he adjusts left before swinging at the balls, to account for the fact that, well, it hooks right, so you want to, well, adjust for that.
Unexpectedly humorous.
That's
Alright, good
so.
stuff.
Is it a drama or a comedy?
The song is
Now, if Emoad got a
Wake up.
front pin, one located, like, around here, he
Hey,
could have
Tyler.
gone for a different trick. Going into this bunker here, in the far left side, typically around the top of it, and hitting a driver shot to, well, the pin located here. This saves around 2 seconds, but he can't do it here because he didn't get the pin for it. So instead, he just elected to do a normal driver chip.
Okay.
Depending on what pin you get, hole 4 here can vary vastly, and by pin I mean where the hole is located as well as the pole and flag. If you get the rightmost pin here, you can go for a hole-in-one setup by hitting a 2-bar shot with your driver, adjusting for wind and, well, vice versa. This is what Emoad does in his 359 run, which results in his PB having a segment of 17.10. That is not accurate because human error exists, but he did not get right pin. So what he instead does here is a very traditional setup for a bunker driver chip, one that you will similarly see on hole 2 in no disconnect runs.
I am not a piranha plant.
You might ask why he doesn't do 1.5 driver here, seeing as he did it on hole 1. And the answer is, he didn't have to. Not only is 1.5 driver pretty inconsistent on holes that aren't 1, it's also generally very niche outside of, well, the aforementioned hole 1 as well as fringe cases on hole 7. Here, you can just do the normal shot, which results in a 1-bar shot and a very clean driver chip.
Oh, we're
Did you notice anything out of the norm there? Well, there was something out of the norm. It was the camera. And we will analyze that camera movement now. This is EmoadNomad's 408.433, and according to the details of the run, this was done on version 1.1. That might sound like complete nonsense, because how could Wii Sports have different versions? Well, in early North American releases, some people would receive version 1.0, which did not have the Wii Remote jacket present at the time, and instead had a whole bunch of differences attached to it. Namely, the cutscene in baseball, lag during strikes in bowling, the boxing replay, and various other tiny differences that can be harked upon, mostly visual. However, there is a very major difference in golf that tends to separate, well, 1.1 runs as well as 1.2 runs, which are combo disc versions with faster loads, from 1.0. Let's see this bunker driver chip done in his 408. Seems pretty clean, right? He hit it, and the camera followed it as it went in, as it went and hit the flag. However, this is substantial, because compared to his 358, it looks like this. The ball didn't really fall. The camera didn't really follow the ball. It just kind of did its own thing and followed, well, the general area of the ball. This is a very important detail, and is one of the main differences for golf in terms of versions.
Oh, worked on G then.
Damn, bro.
Pay attention to this first shot on hole 1, or hole 5. It will mean a lot. You might notice that Emoad's game lags slightly during his first disconnect shot on hole 5. This is because he's playing on version 1.0, where the camera for the golf ball tends to be much less active than in 1.1. This might seem like complete bogus, but it has a greater meaning because he's just able to do that. However, in his 408, which is done on version 1.1, this is what his first disconnect shot looks like. Notice how the lag during his first disconnect shot is much more prevalent. This is a version difference, as the game is trying to make the camera act much more than, well, during this run, which results in more lag being generated in version 1.1 and 1.2. It really doesn't mean that much, or it does, and it can shave off a few seconds if you're playing on version 1.0. It's most prevalent in situations where you have to hit a hard disconnect shot, say, Southwind on hole 9. One of the main reasons why I have a 419. I'm depressed about that. I want to improve it. That's not the point of the run. Shut up. Again, a disconnect shot can vastly vary. It depends on the initial power of your shot, how hard you hit it when you reconnect it, as well as what terrain you touch and various other factors. I will link a video by Plide823 that goes into greater detail about how shots are calculated in a more rough explanation in the description.
Nice approach.
Damn.
What's happening?
Great eagle.
Wait, it's like that one Vsauce thumbnail.
Now I'm going to have to call home with that. Just a really solid hole 5. Very close to his goal. Or, since it's basically down to milliseconds, not very close. There are 2 different approaches to hole 6. You can do it like Shockwave TLS and hit your first shot over here into the water with no disconnect, and then change clubs and do a disconnect. However, that is insanely reliant on how fast can your Wii Remote reconnect. Similarly, River Reconnect, which is present in the intermediate world record, basically hits this shot into the water, and then a really fast reconnect second shot to get near the hole. This, again, depends on how fast your Wii Remote reconnects, as well as various other factors. Emoad does not do that in this run. He simply just plays the hole normally. First shot, disconnect, second shot, disconnect, and then vice versa.
Surprising things.
Hey, Dragons, good night, bro.
Hole 6 can be somewhat of a choke point for runners, as you can either hit these cliffs right here and get launched miles away, or wind can just massively throw you off and put you into the rough over here, which forces you to hit a handicapped shot at 3 bars with your driver. It can lose you time very easily.
Wait.
Thankfully, the wind is very generous for Emoad during this run, as he gets just 0 wind, which is one of the best winds you can get across the entire game.
Dragon, how do we
Across all 9 holes, obviously.
have the same blanket again?
No way.
I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna pull up.
Wait, he is actually?
We have the same blanket, but like 2 different same blankets.
Hmm?
Hole 7 here can easily be a choke point for runners, as it is one of the most RNG holes in the game. You get 3 pins scattered across, as well as wind. It's a dogbone layout style of hole, which forces you to take a curved path around. Or, if you're a speedrunner,
No.
there's this gap of trees present right here that allows you to hit your shot through them, and typically end up near the fairway, like in the bunker over here, near the green here. Like in the bunker, fairway, rough, or vice versa.
Oh, no, this is the same blanket I've had, bro.
Nice shot.
So,
Emoad is probably trying to hit his ball into the bunker here, so that way he can do a bunker driver chip setup. However, he doesn't get that luck, and instead his ball bounces right over the bunker and onto the green,
It's inside out.
which causes it to roll for quite a while. This loses him around 4 to 5 seconds, and is the main reason this run is considered as almost perfect, because hole 7 was fuck.
You fuckwad.
Why did Tyler say that?
Nice on.
This kind of scenario is what makes hole 7 one of the toughest holes to play in OG Wii Sports. Wind can throw everything off. The bunker right here can throw everything off. Your pin that you get can throw everything off. It is a very significant choke point, and it usually draws the line between a dead run and an alive run. In Emoad's case, this run is just barely holding on to the heartstrings of being alive, because he ends up losing a significant amount of time here. Hole 8 here can also function as somewhat of a choke point, as winds in the pin can throw things off. Emoad proceeds to get 26 southeast here. This wind is actually pretty good for a no disconnect run. However, he's doing disconnects. He wants to do things fast, not the slow traditional way in no disconnect. So he will do a disconnect shot here. This wind is also pretty bad because it forces him to go onto the more inconsistent left side of hole 8 as opposed to the right side here, which is much more consistent. Had he gotten a wind like a west or a northwest or just 0 or a very weak south, this would be a right side, and it would be much, much easier. He doesn't get that liberty though, so we have to do this.
You asked for it. That's fucking it. That's the last straw.
oh no.
You might think immediately, because of what I've told you, that he goes for a driver chip here. You're right. He has no other option.
Look. Dragon.
Yeah.
Okay, dude.
Hole 9 is, again, a choke point, and in general, the expert holes tend to be a bit of a hit-or-miss segment for most runners of Golf 9 holes. Hole 9 here is very wind-dependent. You either have to get a north or some other kind of wind that is not south for the run to be considered good. And even then, you still have to deal with disconnect holes and shakiness and nervous and vice versa. Nervousness in Wii Sports can be an easy run killer, as if you're shaky, well, things tend to not go your way. As Wii Sports is a motion control game, so any slight bit of motion can fuck you up massively. Thankfully, Emoad gets a very generous wind here at 22 northeast, which is one of among very good winds to get on this hole.
Blanket.
Oh wow, that is actually crazy.
It actually is.
Given that you've seen situations where runners hit shots into the water off their second shot, you might think these clips right here are a bit of a problem. They really aren't. You actually kind of have to hit your shot into them for the shot to land close to the hole or within the general vicinity of it. And that's what Emoad does for his second shot.
What?
1v1 me in Rocket League.
However, this second shot is pretty weak, which means Emoad lands
I
21 yards.
tried to download that.
Seems pretty bad, right? I mean, he either has to drain a very long putt or go for a very precise wedge chip. I think I've already told you what he typically does in situations like this, so I'm just going to let it roll for itself.
It said my phone is too old.
But he can play Clash Quest? What?
Now, this might read 358.92, however, after retime, it has been considered as a 358.7 flat. You might ask, why don't runners just go off what their splits say? There's something known as human error. Not every timer is accurate. In milliseconds and other various cases, there can be inconsistencies between the actual time and what the runner gets from their timer. So, thus, this run was retimed to 3 minutes, 58 seconds, and 700 milliseconds. And that's how it stands at the current world record, untouched, for well over 2 years. In recent times, though, Mr. Shy Guy has given this record competition as he's gotten a 4.0x with the 4.06. Emoad's Canadian rival, Sir Tyler, also purportedly has a sub 4 minute time at a 3:59. However, due to reasons that I really do not feel like getting into, Tyler has not submitted this run and I do not have the video of it, so I'm not going into depth on that. Given that this run is over, I feel like I can end this video now. So thank you for watching this video, and thank you to EmoadNomad for allowing me permission to analyze this run. He is an amazing runner, and I highly would recommend you go watch his runs, as they are some of the highest quality available for Wii Sports. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.